You guys really don't know when it's good or bad when it comes right down to it. You really don't know because you don't know what we're trying to do. You guys don't look at the films. You don't know what happened. You really don't know. You think you know, but you don't know, and you never will.
To come home because I have a very special love.
The media public doesn't know. You guys don't know. Sometimes it won't. I can tell you it won't be good, and you'll see it won't be good. Sometimes you'll think it's good, and it isn't any good. Sometimes you'll think it's bad, and it was pretty darn good. Sometimes you'll think it's bad, and it was bad. But basically, you really don't know.
And we are back, week 4. Packers get another W. We're having quite the streak here in terms of our picks here, boys. We got, very heavily winning records. That helps when the team's getting it done. Kind of gave me some heart palpitations this week. It was a little bit closer than I would have preferred. But anytime you can come away with the W against Bill Belichick, I guess we'll take it. Packers got it done at the end when we needed to, but certainly didn't make it easy on ourselves. What was your first initial reaction, Schmitty? You've been kind of the level-headed guy throughout the show here so far. Do you have a silver lining for, having such a tough fought victory against the third-string quarterback for the Patriots?
A silver lining? Here's what's going to happen. Some poor family is going to buy 4 tickets for a Green Bay Packers game in the next 3 weeks, and we are going to absolutely let them down. We are going to be 10-point favorites just like we were this past week, and it is going to go bad. It's going to go the other way, and we're going to have a sad family. They're going to drive out. Some family is going to make their trip from Green Bay out to Washington, D.C. to watch us lose to the Commanders, and it's going to be a damn shame. You watched an offense in that first half that had no clue what to do with the ball. Aaron Rodgers with that pick six, his second in Lambeau Field, absolutely horrendous decision by him. I know he's owned up to it, but that cannot be the standard. If it was, and if it is going forward, we are going to lose games. We're going to lose games that we shouldn't. Just like this one, a couple of things that could have went the other way. We easily are on the other side of this. I mean, who knows? I mean, even a tie. Mason Crosby misses a field goal, which is definitely in the realm of possibilities if you look throughout his career. So I know I'm usually the steady hand here amongst us, but I was thoroughly scared about what our offense could look like. And it showed in the first half.
You feeling much the same there, Dad?
I got this uneasy feeling that I have to be the voice of reason. That hurts my feelings a little bit. I'd rather rant, but I think Schmitty did such a good job ranting that I might have to go the other way. I do relate to what Schmitty says about ruining a family's outing. I think, Griff, you might know the one I'm talking about, when your mother insisted without any debate whatsoever and listening to her husband's counsel that we go to the Brett Favre Bart Starr reunion on Thanksgiving Day at Lambeau Field when it was 39 degrees in the driving rain. And I told her, honey, we'll sit at home. You'll see Brett and Bart bigger than daylights right on the big screen. When the game's over, we'll be home. And what happened in that game? Devontae Adams dropped ball after ball. We went down, lost to the Bears. We were all soaking wet. We got to the hotel at 2 a.m. And you're right, Schmitty, it was miserable. On the way out in the atrium, drowned rats as we were, Griff and I walked by the security guard. How old were you, Griff? This was a while ago.
I wasn't super young.
You were high school, maybe freshman or something.
That sounds reasonable. Well, it was whenever Brett made his first trip back to Lambeau, so it had to have been about a couple of years after 2010 there.
Bart had the stroke and made the big recovery and got back. And do you remember what I asked the security guard in the atrium there?
I don't.
I said, sir, can you direct me to the department where we get our refund? And he laughed and didn't point me in any particular direction. But that's what Schmidt's getting at there. But at any rate, I posed the question, are we a young team seasoning ourselves, getting better, figuring out who we are, that's going to look back and say, thank goodness we eked out a couple of these wins because we're starting to discover our identity on offense and getting to the point where we can be a serviceable team? Or is this who we are? Just not a very highly functioning outfit right now. I tend to adhere to the former, that I think we are improving with the young talent that's coming around. Dobbs, you got to love Dobbs for bright points. The 2 rookies scored in this game. You have to believe Rodgers is going to get better. The guy that concerns me is Joe Barry. He just does not seem to have a penchant for managing the game. How can you not? I might be jumping ahead here. Is this okay, Mr. Moderator? On the
there's no
outline?
hard set schedule. We are off the cuff, guided by emotions. Shirts
perfect.
not required type of a deal here.
Right, exactly. So how do you not stack the line of scrimmage and force the third string quarterback to beat you throwing the ball, and have under no circumstances allow any momentum to be built up in the running game so that he can go to play action pass and complete a few passes and get some confidence? It was a total and inexplicable lack of field generalship on the part of the defensive coordinator. And I don't know if Joe Barry's long for this job. I just have serious reservations. He would be my number one rant and complaint from the game.
Well, it seems like we've had an issue of letting wide receivers run unmolested through the secondary, particularly with those deep over type crossing routes and so forth. Saw that with Justin Jefferson in week 1 multiple times, and we made it very easy on Zappe with a couple throws there where he just kind of blooped the ball up there, and any high school quarterback in the country could have made it. We were talking a little bit earlier today. It seems like, hey, if that guy's going to go out there and sling the ball around the yard and fit it in some tight spots and beat you with the deep ball or something like that, fine. Let's go with it. But make him make some tough throws and shut down the run. I'm totally with you. It's not rocket science. And as soon as you see, that it was Brian Hoyer. It wasn't like we were planning to go against their number 1. This should have been the game plan with him as well. We didn't have to make a big on-the-fly adjustment. Make them beat you through the air, and we certainly didn't do that. We gave up 24 points to a practice squad quarterback that came from an FCS school. Totally unacceptable by the defense. That said, the offense in the first half was so painful, they had me clamoring for us to sign Tony Romo before he could leave the state of Wisconsin. That was partially in jest. But once again, our offense went cold, and they've shown a propensity to do this, as we've talked about. That said, if we turn this on its ear a little bit and take the best parts from the last couple weeks here, we held Tom Brady to 1 touchdown for almost an entire game the previous week. And the offense in the second half of this game really started clicking. We had a couple misfires that held us back from, winning in regulation. But if you look at the best parts of the last 2 games, and, early in the season, maybe I'm prone to do that here. I was pretty skeptical of our wide receiving core coming into the year. I am seeing some room for optimism there. Allen Lazard looks like a legitimate weapon. Romeo Dobbs looks like an absolute hit. And obviously we had a few misfires there and so forth, but what do you guys take that's positive too? I know we got a little rant off our chest, but are you with me at all in terms of seeing some things to really think there's room for optimism if we can put things all together here?
Yeah, you saw 2 rookie wide receivers get touchdowns for the Packers. The 2 guys that the offense has put a lot of stock into. Rodgers recognizes that he needs these guys, that they are going to be required to show up for us when it matters most, and they're already showing flashes. Romeo Dobbs, with all of those hands catches, all of that short intermediate 5 yards at the end of the game in overtime, when he was getting those quick fire passes on the left side, outside the numbers. Those things make us believe that this offense could go on a trajectory that leads us to where we want to be come December and January.
Hey, did
No.
Dobbs and Christian Watson go to the MVS school of catching the deep ball? We had a nice lesson from my father here in week 1. You put the pinkies together. Can we put the pinkies together and haul in a couple deep balls? Dobbs had showed multiple times in the preseason and in camp that he can get behind guys, but he had some drops on those deep balls in those situations as well. And, I don't think we'll ever forget what Christian Watson did with the atrocious drop week 1. But catch the ball and win the game at the end there. That's just a play that he needs to make if he's going to light the world on fire and be the type of rookie wide receiver that he's shown he's capable of.
Yeah, in all of his press conferences, he does not seem to be a fiery guy at all, Romeo Dobbs. So he's about as even keel as you can get from a wide receiver, being that it's such a pomp and frill type position where you're speaking so highly of yourself a lot. This guy is not that, but that is a catch you need to make. You had 2 steps, and you literally just need to tuck that into your forearm and hit the ground, and he didn't do it. Rodgers thought he had one there, and to our dismay, he didn't bring it down. So
did you have shades of Des Bryant there? That was what I went to immediately.
I sneakily thought that was going to be rule overturned for a touchdown, but we move on. Yes, shades of Des, shades of Calvin. He needs to make that catch.
Well, Cowboys fans would have gone apoplectic if they would have ruled this a catch for us. If we would have come out on the right end of both of those. They have made the rule a little bit more liberal in favoring the catch after the Dez ruling. But yeah, he clearly didn't catch this. How about Dad here, Matt LaFleur's decision to challenge that play?
Okay, now I got to back up. We were on a positivity moment here talking about the things that were looking good. So let me go there for just a minute. We got Bakhtiari playing almost the whole game at a pretty high level. We've got Elton Jenkins playing a good share of the game, and Elton is rusty. He's going to get better. We got the rookie wide receivers who are growing. We got Aaron Jones, who looks like one of the top 5 dynamic players in the whole league. And we got Aaron Rodgers, who's going to get better. I see upside for all of these things. I'm going to take a little exception on the Dobbs critique there. That is to me, what's the problem with that play is the rule. The guy catches the ball, takes 2 steps, knee hits the ground, hand hits the ground. Why does he have to control the ball? I thought those poor London people must say, what the hell is a touchdown? I thought the ball had to cross the plane of the goal line, and the guy had to have 2 feet down and touchdown. I don't like the rule of having to go to the ground when you have step, knee, hand, and then the ball hits the ground. And that is not an easy play, Griff, as you can attest, for your whole body weight to come down on the ball. So I give Dobbs a little break there. I thought the fact that he made that play and beat that guy deep is why he got the 2 short balls in the overtime. That guy was 15 yards off, scared to death that Dobbs was going to run by him. And that bodes very well for our offense to think that at some point they are going to have to start double teaming Dobbs and taking away part of the field, opening things up for the other guys. So talking about optimism, yes. Now back around to Matt LaFleur, Joe Barry and his antics, not good. Matt LaFleur, if I'm Matt LaFleur, effective tomorrow, I hire the smartest guy I know to stand by me. And his only job is to stop me when I'm about to do something stupid. And in recent times, he's done a couple pretty stupid things. If you think about the Tampa Bay NFC Championship, where he doesn't go for it on 4th down, almost the most harebrained call in the history of Packer football. And then add to this one a ridiculous challenge with no chance of succeeding, And so as a
And
result,
when you needed timeout, it was a very detrimental
well, it
situation in
could have
which to
cost
lose
them
a
the game.
timeout.
Very,
Yes.
very
Yes.
lucky it did not cost them, because as a result of that, they had to go to overtime, and anything can happen once you go to overtime. In fact, we didn't score on the first possession, right? So all they had to do was kick a field goal. Hey, I love Matt LaFleur. I love what he's done for the team. So that's another kind of an optimistic tilt that he's learning and getting better. And I hope he will take my advice and have somebody stand beside him and become an advisor, because those decisions, we can't have that and be a championship team. So totally agreed. And I think he would agree with the same thing. We got to stop that though. Now we've had it in the NFC Championship. We had it again this time. These are plays, pivotal coaching plays that we need to correct. But I'm high on Dobbs, and I'm not quite as critical as you guys of that ball that squirted out in the end zone.
Well, Matt LaFleur and the Packers do have a eye in the sky, a guy that gives the coach a thumbs up, thumbs down on whether or not to challenge those type of plays. And he told LaFleur not to challenge that, apparently, and LaFleur called a hot route. And you got to know the situation. When that guy tells you not to challenge in that situation, that's a vital timeout, like we talked about. We would have had a chance to maybe kick a field goal if we could have thrown deep over the middle and retained that timeout. We might have actually had more, upwards of a minute left with the ball is how it might have worked out. Because we would have called a timeout when the Patriots were trying to run out the clock. So who knows how things would have transpired. Regardless, with all these things and issues and missteps, we came out of New England with a W. Probably the last time that Aaron Rodgers plays Bill Belichick in his career, unless we meet him in the Super Bowl or something like that. Pretty good for us to get a win against that guy. I heard Bill and Aaron speak pretty glowingly about one another. They had quite a love affair in the media and only had praise for one another. But fun to beat that guy. Did you guys see Bill Belichick came out in full suit and tie in his press conference there?
I didn't catch that.
Yeah, well, I'll have to put a clip in here, but interesting given his history of wardrobe choices and so forth. I don't know if it was in respect and reverence for Lambeau Field and maybe his last time as a coach there, but it was
kind of
interesting to note. Yeah, he didn't go full like fedora and horn rim glasses or anything like that, but it was. I think there was some reverence there for the history of the Green Bay Packers, and he's a guy that respects and appreciates that sort of thing. And then interestingly, Aaron had sort of a cutoff sweatshirt I saw in his press conference. So I don't know if those guys were talking behind the scenes there or not, but I found that interesting. What are you guys thinking about Lazard? We touched on him a little bit. Establishing himself is he going to become a bona fide number one? Is he going to be second fiddle to Romeo Dobbs at some point in the future here? How do you see that hierarchy shaking out? Start with you, Schmitty.
I think Lazard is just your most cerebral player on the team. He has the best grasp of the offense, and Rodgers recognizes that and will go to him consistently game to game.
They're on the same page.
Yes, and I believe he's the number one. Romeo has surely given us a boost with Sammy likely to be not playing for the next month, and we'll see what happens going forward once he returns. But I think that's your 1 and 2. The Lazard production was fantastic to see, and I think you'll get a lot of that going forward. Just when those crucial third downs, those Cobb-like plays. Shout out to Randall Cobb for what he's done for our offense this season. But Lazard will. Lazard will surely be the guy that Aaron Rodgers is looking to make a big reception.
Yeah, I don't care what you call Lazard. He's a hell of a good ball player, and he's an important cog. And I don't care if you call him number 1, 1A, 2. He brings something unique to the party. He's physical. He's big. He's kind of like a tight end, wide out hybrid. He brings a toughness. He's a willing blocker that rubs off on the other players. He's not a prototypical number 1, but he's a highly effective player. And I think what you look at more is what's the composition overall of the wide receiver group and what kind of different skill sets do they bring to the party so that you can have a diverse attack. And I see a group that has the potential to have that kind of diversity that makes them hard to cover and hard to game plan for. You can get
And not
Watson.
only the diversity amongst those guys in terms of their talents and assets that they bring to the table, but the receiving skills of the running backs. And we got Bobby Tonyan going a little bit here this week as well. So Tonyan, excuse me.
Yeah, absolutely. More on the upside. I just believe that this offense has to get untracked and will be looking a lot different a month from now than it's looked for this first part of the season. So maybe we look back and say, hey guys, we could easily be 1-3. And so to come out of this somehow 3-1, which by the way is what I predicted, if you might remember my rundown on the whole schedule, 3-1 for the first 4 games, 3-1 for the second 4 games. We'll see how that works out now. So we're right on schedule, and maybe we look back and say, hey, that helped us get our feet under us, get some momentum, get some seasoning for these young kids, get the line. There's a talker there. Is this line going to end up being Yosh Nijman at right tackle, kick Jenkins into guard where he's been more familiar and effective, and now you have your best 5 that which is already showing it can be a potent force in the run game, really become a solidifying factor and a cog for this offense.
Well, I don't claim to be any offensive line expert, but that just seems to make the most sense to me. If you can get your best 5 out there together, I really would like to see that.
And the blue check marks support that. So I think that's what we'll see going forward.
I just got to share your comment, Griff, when you were a junior in college and you started playing quite a bit more at wide receiver at the big University of Wisconsin at River Falls Falcon program, that highly productive and prolific
number 17 in the
game.
Country currently.
Yeah,
so shout out to the Falcons there.
All they do is score 60 points a game. And, of course, it all started with you. But when you started playing out there and your specialty was to come in the 4-wide package on 3rd down, and you had to block for 1 down maybe, but usually they threw the ball to you and then you went off the field, and then suddenly you started starting and you had to block on the first 2 downs when they ran. And your comment to me was, I have no idea how those guys on the inside line up and do that hand-to-hand combat every play for the whole game. And you were just doing it a little bit on the outside occasionally.
Well, I have been doing, a little bit of studying of the next level analytics and how they pertain to fantasy football and so forth. And one of the best indicators for a potentially emerging wide receiver is yards per route run. And target percentage per route run. And so on a per route run basis, if you're getting the ball thrown to you a lot and you're capitalizing on those plays, there's a high likelihood that you're about to break out as soon as they give you more opportunities and so forth. So I was thinking my yards per route run had to have been pretty good when I would only come in on 3rd downs and just be the passing weapon guy. That was kind of a fun role. But yeah, blocking was not exactly something that I took up with a lot of excitement and so forth. But just the logic follows, right? If you can get 5 guys that are your best players on the field at one time, I can't see why they wouldn't do that.
Yeah. Do you, Schmitty, what do you think about Yosh being one of their best 5 and kind of being a natural tackle out there? And Jenkins got a lot of versatility, but seems like his best position is guard. Do they kick him into right guard then? Or
I think he'll resume his left guard position when he first came on the scene for us. Yosh will take over right tackle, Myers at the center, and I think Runyon would then be our right guard. I think Runyon's the next best guard behind Jenkins. I think that's our best 5. But Yosh has had plenty of experience, and that's a guy that held steady a lot last year at the left tackle position. And you want him on the field. I think he's shown the ability to keep Rodgers upright. The right tackle position, there's a little more power. You're probably going to the right a little bit more in the run game. So I don't know what he's like in run block sets. If PFF gives him a plus grade there, but again, top 5 linemen on our team, Yash is in that top 5.
So we kicked the Ole Miss kid to the curb. Let him sit out, huh? Move Runyon over to right guard.
You'd move Runyon to right guard.
Well, I don't know if you know this, Dad, but Schmitty here is a noted former wide receiver from what's the Lodi mascot, Schmitty?
We are the Blue Devils.
The Lodi Blue Devils housed a punt at his time back there. In your great and vast experience as a punt returner, I know you've been pretty critical of Amari Rodgers and his abilities back deep there for us. What was your assessment on his ability in making a couple fair catches and a little bit of excitement back there as well? How was his performance? How would you grade him out?
Steady. And I think that's what everyone wants, is just steady work from Amari Rodgers. Nothing flashy. If he gets a 10-yard return once a game, fantastic. I just want the ball to be caught and give the ball off to 12. And I think that's where our special teams would be deemed best served, is giving the ball to our offense to allow our offense, Aaron Rodgers, to do his thing. So, no, I don't need any flashy
Just don't
plays.
screw it up.
Just don't screw it up.
I thought Amari had a nice kick return out to about, 36, 37. Looked like he was just an eyelash from breaking it a little further. I thought that the play he made on the punt right at the end of regulation was outstanding. He kept that punt from getting by him. Now, Griff, you made the point that the fair catch there would have given you the free kick.
I would have loved to have seen the free kick. I think every NFL game that I'm watching, I'm rooting for an opportunity for there to be a free kick, just because I've never seen a free kick made. I've seen 2 attempted. So if we could have won on free kick, I would have just been in ecstasy there, I think.
A little history. You might have to check the books, but I think back in the 60s, Detroit made a free kick against the Packers in I might have been a Thanksgiving game, but as a kid, I'm born in 1959, so I remember the Lombardi years, and I do remember mention of a free kick being made against the Packers by the Detroit Lions. So there's a little history for you. We might have to check the record books and get a reference on that for you. But yeah, it would have been an interesting thing. You had pointed out they should have played Rodgers up close. He was too far back to come in and really catch that ball. I don't fault him for that. But
with our no timeouts, if it goes over your head, it's the half is over anyways. Yeah.
I guess the thought, Griff, probably was maybe make a return at that point, play for the, housing the return, but that seems like a low probability thing. So it's an interesting talker to have had him up there close, make the fair catch, and let Crosby have a full run at it from midfield and see if he could kick over the bar.
The other thing is, even I know for sure in college, but I'm not sure in the NFL, but if you fair catch it and it bounces, the fair catch still counts, and the ball is dead as soon as you catch it. So I'm not sure if that stands in the NFL, but that would be an interesting rule to look up. We're getting deep into the obscure rules of football here, but hey, there was a chance for it to happen at the end there. There was an interesting occurrence for our, I wouldn't say friends, our rivals across the border here. They were playing over in London. Did you guys have any chance to catch the Saints-Vikings game?
Go ahead, Schmitty.
I was driving on my way home from my brother's wedding, so listening to it with my wife, who could care less, by the way. I'm a steady Vikings fan, just didn't want to hear football on the radio. But I was following play-by-play, switching back from the Saints broadcast, and then as I got closer to Minnesota, put on PA. What an awful human being that guy is. I never want to listen to. Just can't.
Best call ever.
Just don't enjoy that man.
Did you see the end here with the double doink though?
I did. I caught the double doink.
I was hoping it would be a double doink and a good, and we would have got the classic, like you say, reaction.
The Saints win that game, had that double doink going, and then to hear PA love up on the Vikings, as he should, right? Absolutely despicable.
He does his job well, but boy, do I not enjoy him as a Packer fan. I do love Carl Gerbschmidt. He'd be a great guy to get on the show here.
Yes, if we could get an appearance from our friend Gerby.
first public appearance from Carl Gerbschmidt. That would be quite a get.
Oh, absolutely. Over Aaron Rodgers, over anyone.
Yeah.
That's our number one target.
So the Vikings won by virtue of a double doink. Is that what I'm led to believe here? I didn't see the end of that game.
That's correct, sir. Yeah, double doink. And Lutz had just made one prior, just a few minutes before, from the very same distance.
It was a 61-yarder, yeah. And he had the distance.
Like them.
Yeah, they eked it out.
They could easily be 1-3 also.
Yeah, it's an interesting division here in the NFC North. I think the only team that have no worries about whatsoever is the Chicago Bears. They look pretty abysmal, but even the Lions, that offense, man, they've been able to score a lot of points. They're pretty feeble on the other side of the ball, but if they could get even just a semblance of a defense, they have by far the most points allowed in the NFL. They would be formidable because they put up some points, and Goff's been looking good. We might be playing a third-string quarterback for the second week in a row here as we head across the pond ourselves over to London against the New York Giants. Daniel Jones sprained his ankle, and Tyrod Taylor came in for him in relief and got a concussion. So both those guys are question marks at the current time. Third up for the Giants is Davis Webb. So it looks like they're going to try and work Daniel Jones back into playing shape here. But can you imagine getting to go against a third-string quarterback the second week in a row? That would be quite a lucky find for us. I hope we would do better against him than we did against Bailey Zappe this week.
Say, by the way, who's our third-string quarterback? Did we keep one on the taxi squad, practice squad, whatever you call it?
Oh, that's the question. Did we? Because we brought in that former Patriot that had the long runs in preseason. What's that guy's name? I can't even think of it at the moment.
I can't either. Did we keep him on the squad? I would guess.
He's not on our 53.
No, we know that.
He might be on the practice squad, I would think.
Danny Etling is part of our 50, is part of our practice squad. Yes.
Okay. Well, that's reassuring. He can do something at least, huh?
Yeah.
I doubt we're going to play the third stringer somehow. Remember Brett Favre against the Bears on one leg, 5 touchdown passes with a big black and blue ankle, and I wrapped up like it was in a cast. Daniel Jones will limp out there somehow, huh?
However, no, maybe not, because they all will travel earlier than they typically do. So maybe there's a decision that has to be made sooner. So maybe it is a possibility he doesn't travel with the team.
Well, then you're right. And now with the Tua thing on concussion, they aren't going to be trotting a guy out there very readily who just got a concussion, right? There'll be a microscope on that situation. So, well, let's say, can I have Joe Barry's phone number? If we're playing the third string quarterback, can we stack the line up and stop the run and make that third string quarterback beat us? If that's what the case is going to be, because good Lord, now you got me going again. What's the pattern that got us beat almost against the Patriots? The same thing the Vikings ran in that deep quarters coverage, whatever it is, where the cornerbacks are backing way up and the safeties are backed way up, and we got a linebacker trying to cover a crossing pattern at 25 yards across the field. And Griff, you and I and Schmitty could have all made that throw to the bloop something up there with a lot of air under it and let the guy run over to it, and there ain't anybody within 15 yards of him. And it's happened 3 or 4 times. When you have a kid at home, a little youngster, and you tell them not to touch the hot stove, you only have to tell them once. If they touch the hot stove, it never happens again. But not with our outfit. Oh, no. We got to do it 4 or 5 times before somebody stops touching the hot stove. Enough is enough. Come on. Cover that play.
Totally agree. If Joe Barry isn't in base defense 75% come on Sunday, we got an issue. You're in base. We saw too much on Sunday where he's in nickel. Goodness, he might have been in dime package on plays that everyone in Lambeau Field knew They were running the ball. Yet we got one linebacker to cover all the gaps. We're doing that where the line is out on the D and C gaps. It can't happen. These guys, if we're going to go up against a third-string quarterback, if we're going to go up against Danny Dimes, it doesn't matter. Be in base. We are better than these teams in base. Take care of business. The Packers are
absolutely, Schmitty. I didn't mean to cut you off. Finish your thought.
No, the Packers are. This is a get right month, is what I said last week, and they didn't get right on Sunday. It was not a get right. Get right in London.
See, there you go, Schmitty. Now we got to go back. We get right 1 week at a time. Don't look past this week. But I agree with everything you said, but I will say, if you're gonna, where do you think Belichick got that play? He watched the tape from the Viking game, and the NFL is no great mystery. If you can't cover it, they're gonna expose you to it over and over again until you prove you can cover it. So if you're gonna play that defense, your cornerbacks better know what we're vulnerable to is a wide receiver on the other side running all the way across the field. And how are we going to cover that if we're going to be in that defense? It boggles my mind that professional football, and to me, it's coaching. Your coach, you will get what you emphasize. If he emphasizes how to cover that play, he will get it. He clearly is not communicating properly, and that's why I have severe reservations that he is long for this job.
What's our blitz percentage up to here, Schmitty? Did we have you had the blitz counter up to 1 last week for us. Did you notice any this week?
I honestly, I wasn't looking much for it. They didn't send many, that's for certain. And I maybe it's because Jair is out, and so they're a little less concerned about us getting to the quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Rashawn Gary able to do it again, which was exciting. But wouldn't you think you'd send a couple packages, a little welcome to the NFL look for Bailey Zappe there? Well, I'm just happy to get out of there with a win. Looking forward to the Giants here. What's your pick this week? I have a feeling we might have a clean sweep.
Run the clean sweep across the graphic here. It is the
run
Packers.
The table.
Run the table. You're 8.5-point favorites. Good Lord. Just take care of business. There's no reason for this team to be in it. You let it, if anything, LaFleur should be in Joe Barry's office right now being like, what the hell happened? We got to make sure that we're doing right by the people. And he didn't do much of that on Sunday. So I think we win by 14.
What's the spread?
The spread is 8.5.
So we're covering. That maybe is a more interesting question. Okay.
We are covering.
Maybe I was prematurely anticipating your pick here, Dad, but I'm hoping we're all on the same page here and think the Pack can get it done against the G-Men.
Well, I haven't picked a pick against the Pack yet this year, and I don't know when I'm going to, but this week I'm certainly not. I think the Packers put together a little closer to a whole game finally this week. I think you're going to see some better focus, and you got both of your big tackles now are back for repeated games, getting their legs under them. You got Aaron Jones, who just looks fantastic. I think you're going to see something like a 31-13 kind of a game, 31-17. I'll stick to 31-13.
I like 13. I don't think the Giants get a ton going offensively. I do want to see Kadarius Toney to get it going. He hasn't gotten a lot of snaps for the Giants. That's a name to look out for. I think he makes a return back out on the pitch out there in London, and maybe finds the end zone. They got first-round wide receiver Wan'Dale Robinson's been injured as well. They lost their number one, I guess you could call him, wide receiver Sterling Shepard to a torn ACL. So I look for those two young guys to get going for the Giants. On the Packers side, I think it's a lot of Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. We feed those guys, and I look for the combined duo of Jones and Dillon to outrush Saquon Barkley for the Giants. Packers big is my prediction for this week.
What's your number?
The We haven't put more than 27 on it in a game here. That was our season high. I think there's probably moments in this game where we stall again. So I'm looking for something around 24, 27 again. I think about 3 touchdowns and a couple field goals seems reasonable. And I like your projection of 13. Let's go 27-13. And that equals Schmidt's 14-point victory there. So
I have to throw in as we're wrapping up that I think we have pretty strong evidence now as to why Jimmy Leonard turned down the defensive coordinator position at the Packers. And I think that he probably had a little inside information that he might soon be assuming a head position with the university over there. And that's exactly what's happened this week. That's probably subject for offline talk, but we'll see what the Badgers do now too with Jimmy Leonard as the head mentor.
Hey, I do want to wish Paul Christ well. I think in my brief interactions with him at Badger Camp once upon a time, seemed like a pretty great guy. One of the winningest coaches in Badger football history. If it weren't for Barry Alvarez and Brett Bielema's incredible runs, I think we would have a statue out front of that guy of Christ. So I think we can look back fondly on what he was able to do, but maybe a time for a change, and I guess it's the Jim Leonard era there.
Yeah, hopefully we don't regret it. It sure seems like Paul Christ didn't get the benefit of the doubt here. That if you look at the schedule, they very well could finish up the season winning a majority of those games. And it seems like they did not want to allow that to happen and make it impossible to get rid of him. So certainly do feel for Paul Christ. And it seems like he got a little bit of the short end of the stick, but you can't feel too bad for him. I think he's going to walk away with about $8-10 million. So I think he'll be able to lick his wounds and move on to his next chapter. He can be very proud of what he established with the Badgers.
Maybe he'll bounce his way back into the WIAC and we'll see him around Wisconsin here. Something like that. You don't think that's going to happen. Neither do I. But
I don't think he's stepping that far down.
He's Nebraska's next coach.
Wow. Oh, that's an interesting. That could be. I saw a graphic on the internet floating around that the last time the Badgers fired a coach was Stan Van Gundy in 1995. Is that real? I didn't realize that Stan Van Gundy coached basketball for the Badgers.
Yeah, I should have known, but I don't remember it either. The Badgers back in when I was you guys' age, they weren't worth following. And so I did not follow them that much. So I can't speak to the Stan Van Gundy, but it sounds like it's a true story, huh?
Well, we'll do a little fact checking here. Well, thanks again for joining us here, guys. We'll send it off with a little Beta Boys theme song. Take care.
Love you guys.
See ya. And his father shoveled horse shit all the days. When the lad was very young, they found a diamond in the dung, and they sent him off to college just to play. Hail, hail, hail to Master Beta, lift your thunder mugs on high, and we'll drink another glass to the biggest horse's ass in the brotherhood of Beta Theta Chi. Go Beta Boys!